Hi everybody, welcome back or welcome to the John McCoy Art YouTube channel. If you are new to the channel, welcome. We're happy to have you here. We are resuming our Learning to Draw with Andrew Loomis's Fun with a Pencil. This is part 9. And up until this point, we've been using the blook ball, which looks a little bit like this. We've moved on now to trick stuff, as Andrew Loomis refers to it. And this is important that you watch the videos beforehand and that you review all of the content, the previous content. Because in this part, Andrew Loomis we are advancing our study of the face by adding new tricks. And it's important to understand how the blook ball works. It's important to understand all of that process beforehand, because we're building upon it. And the skills we learned using the blook ball and analyzing the face and the axis is going to show up inside of this trick stuff that we're about to do. But let's get started. We're gonna work from these forms. Andrew Loomis says, try this on the folks. Tell them to draw 2 overlapping circles any size. Draw a middle line through both. So we're pretending like we're going through these 2 circles. You notice if you watch my video about understanding the sphere and stuff, these are more arcs than they are half ellipses, and that's okay, obviously. He's aware of that. He's a professional artist. He's not deliberately trying to draw these as you notice that what I'm trying to say, if you understand that an ellipse is something like this, but if we take this arc, it's more drawn like this. And if these lines were to continue, as somebody commented on one of my videos, they would not create an ellipse, but that's okay. He's obviously just drawing this midline in these 2 circles, and we're following that. You can make a head out of any combination. Of course, tell them to draw lightly. So in this case, I'm drawing this, and I'm going to go ahead and draw these 3 iterations that he's drawn. Just draw the circle here again, and then another overlapping sphere as he's told us to do. And then these center lines, and then another one here. Let's just have a little bit of fun with this. We worked really hard on the emotions before in previous videos. That was a little more challenging. I found that to be a challenge, and some of you may have found that to be a challenge. But now we're kind of taking a break by doing some of this trick stuff, which why would we make it difficult on ourselves if we're learning new content? Let's start off easy, take it casual. These are very simple. There's not a lot of 3-dimensionality to these forms, but that's okay because he's teaching us something new. So now we're going to go over these 4 iterations. We've drawn it, roughed in our circles, and let's start drawing in these forms following this. Drawn somewhat of an eyebrow line. Then he's got these little eye parts. And then this nose. If you don't know how big to make some of these forms, you can use the other lines as reference. So for a second, I doubted how large to make this nose piece. I looked over here and I realized that it goes almost to the bottom of the first circle. And then I use that sometimes. Then we got these little cheeks. And then again, the same one. That goes out of here a little bit. And then we've got this other form here. You don't always need to understand all the forms as you're drawing them, but if you're following this and then you see what we've created later as we follow those forms, you will be able to understand where he's going with those forms. But when we're learning to draw, a lot of times, one of the best things we can do is just simply record what we're seeing. I honestly, looking at this, I didn't know where he's going with this. So even me, a professional artist, I've been drawing for a long time, and I didn't know what he was doing with this. I thought maybe some kind of chin or something, and of course he changes it into something else. The top line of this will become the mouth, the bottom line will become the chin, but I wasn't sure of that because this is his character, and we're learning how to draw by his method. So we're going to draw these iterations next on these characters. Some of the forms, of course, are very obvious where he's going with this, like this is a nose, And then these are cheeks. This character in the middle seems to be more obvious to me what these forms are suggesting. And then this little... Not to get ahead of ourselves, but later, as we learn more in this book, we go from these cartoony type characters to more realistic characters. And we start to draw the anatomy of the head and the forms of the head in more of a realistic manner. So he begins us with the blook ball, and now he's teaching us to expand outside of the blook ball by adding another sphere. And that will, I'm not going to say too much, just stay tuned for the new videos that we'll be making in the future. But you're going to see how that comes in handy to branch out of simply the blook ball, because later he's going to tell us things like the overall form of the human head is not a ball. It's a ball plus a plane. So we're going to learn about that later. But this is just a loose exercise saying, trick stuff, have fun with this, branch out a little bit from the blook ball. But don't forget what we learned with the blook ball. I'm doing this third head now. It's important that we did all that practice in advance. All those blook balls that we created, a little bit of learning the emotions, all of that's going to come in handy. Very useful for later. There's this line. Now we're advancing a little bit. We have not gotten our inks out yet, but we are defining in these eyes a little more, and then adding the eyebrows here, and then adding some forms in there, developing the nose a little more, little nostril here on the side, and then adding these little forms. Now is here we're extracting this mouth out of this character, and we're adding some more wrinkles here. As you can see, we're playing with a little bit of the concepts we learned in our previous videos. For example, these wrinkles here suggesting that this character is smiling, something we learned previously. So everything we've learned is coming in handy that we've learned before. Okay, that's that one. Move on to this one. This is developing the little mouth a little more, putting out this little twig in this character's mouth, adding a little bit more detail to the nose and to the wrinkles behind the eyes, and putting some directionality on where the character is looking, and then adding some depth or some dimension, I should say, to these eyebrows. And then we're adding a little bit of character too. Now we'll move on to the third one here. This character is just adding a little more detail. It really hasn't changed that much, maybe just a few more lines here and there, advancing the hairstyle, changing the hairstyle a little bit. If it hasn't changed that much, Andrew Loomis is really just encouraging us to take our time and to experiment, add some little personality to these characters. All right, let's get out the inks here, and we'll go over these characters right here. So we got this little eyes looking to the side. Here's the part where you can use what you've drawn before, and so you don't have to worry about planning the face as much, but you can worry about using some line weight, expressing a little bit, putting a character into these guys. Adding a little shading here. He's having some fun with that, adding a little shading to the nose. A little bit of a core shadow here with bounce light on the bottom of the nose. Is more of an advanced concept, but he's just suggesting it here. Is not something that it's absolutely necessary. If you don't feel comfortable jumping into these shadings, then don't worry about that. Just have fun with the characters and build your confidence. A little bit of shading here. But with this first character, shading in the eyebrows. Adding a little more detail to these ears. But you can see now is we did not follow a blook ball this time. We added 2 overlapping spheres, and we've arrived at a result that's similar to what we had encountered before, but it's also unique. So we're expanding our knowledge. You can see with this new technique of adding another layer, another dimension, two overlapping spheres. We'll jump in and do this second character. Looking to his left. I'm paying attention to how he's teaching us how to draw these little forms. He is doing a lot of this core shading here, core shadow shading. And just on a side note about core shadows is when you have a sphere as the most basic form, you have this core shadow where the light source is pointing this way, and you have this whole area is in darkness, is in shadow. However, this line right here is darker than this side because the surface it's sitting on is bouncing light back. So that's kind of what he's done here, this core shadow with the light bouncing up from. But that's just a little side, getting off on a side note. I just figured if I was going to bring it up that he was doing core shadows, I'd give you a little bit of background on that, but it's not essential to our studies here. So if you don't know what I'm talking about yet, don't get distracted with that. If you do know, great. Congratulations. Now we're shading these eyebrows. These characters, they have a lot of character to them. It's really kind of fun to draw these little characters. And then define the line of this head right here. You know, you don't even have to really complete these all the time. If you just add it to your satisfaction of you shade it in with this little dark, because what you've done is made permanent with this ink pass that you do over here. At the same time, you've added value because we're adding another value here and making darker lines. All right, let's go ahead and do that last face right there, and then we'll call it for this video. Again, with these core shadows here. And I know we're going to be covering that in later chapters, is adding shading at some point. And I'm pretty sure that that's coming up. But it could be a ways away. So don't worry too much about it. But it adds character. To add a little bit of shading, a little bit of line thickness here and there. If that's something that's new for you, shading and stuff like that, and this is, you're just comfortable with doing this part, where then focus on the faces themselves. But you can also begin to intuitively practice a little bit of shading as you begin to draw these faces. And you can leave it at that. You can just learn a little bit intuitively without needing to fully explore the concept, because it's almost like a little bit of an introduction into shading. But I have noticed that as this book progresses, he adds more and more shading to the characters. And he plays more and more with line weight and so forth. The little eyebrows. Brilliant. So just have fun with this video. We're branching out into newer stuff, and this will eventually become a bridge between the blook ball and the more advanced anatomically accurate faces that we're going to be drawing. So just take a little bit of time to experiment adding onto the blook ball with these two spheres overlapping. And I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. We are going to continue maybe next time with this other trick stuff, which is very similar, adding two cheeks or other spheres and playing around, branching out of just the one sphere basically. But that's it for this video. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching. If you haven't already, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel. This is a series that we're creating to help myself learn and help share that knowledge with other people, as well as learn what Andrew Loomis has to offer us in this wonderful book. So thanks for watching and have a good day. God bless.